Welcome back to Faith Unfiltered Life podcast. You are joining us for part 2 of a 2-part series called This Isn't the Motherhood that you post about. Karen and Jojo are talking with Bell about a different type of motherhood, the one that you didn't expect. You're joining us in part 2 where Sarah's getting to know her daughter Abby and explaining the journey of meeting her, talking about restoration, and sharing some of her resources that she wishes she would have had whenever she was going through her adoption process. So sit tight and join us for this amazing episode. This isn't the motherhood that you post about.
I get very quiet when I get really, when I really start digging deep. I get very quiet. And John says that week was a week where I just didn't talk.
Of his life.
Maybe so. Where I just didn't talk. It was just very quiet all week. And I was still fighting that shame. How is this going to look? How do I navigate this? Well, what do I do?
Like shame as in like, how does she view you?
Yeah, where's it? What shame?
This was still my shame.
Okay.
Of
being
the
someplace
choices that I made
Okay.
26 years ago, right?
And I don't mean to go back in your story, but
Yeah.
your first marriage or even, your second marriage, how did that come up? Like,
Yes.
when did it come up?
Yes. So with my first husband, I met him not long after Abby was born.
Okay.
Still deep in the throes of trauma,
Yeah.
recovering. So he knew right away that I had had a baby and that she was adopted.
It wasn't something you tried to hide.
No, not with him.
Okay.
And then John knew because I had told the story a couple of times and I don't know if you guys know this, I was his oldest daughter's Sunday school teacher.
Yeah.
So I told that Sunday school class.
Okay.
When I was her Sunday school teacher, we'd separate and do girls class and boys class. And, I led that class a couple of times and in that process told them my story, a little bit about my story, just trying to parse it out a piece at a time and how much do I feel safe sharing to not have to relive it.
Yeah.
That's tricky. That's tricky to, without professional therapist help.
Right.
It's tricky to know how to do that.
Right.
I never had a professional therapist, so I was just navigated it myself, which I don't recommend, by the way. I do not recommend that. Get help.
Yeah.
Get help. Because somebody pouring into you can help you walk through these things.
Yeah.
So John knew about it because I had told Kristen about it. It was something that, I didn't try to keep it secret. I just didn't talk about it.
Right.
So it wasn't like a deep dark hole of throw everything in the hole and forget the hole and put it away and not talk about it. Although I would have much rather done that, but that doesn't serve you in the long run.
So you're getting ready to meet.
So I'm getting ready to meet Abby or just talk to her on the phone. And the night before, on Friday night, was women's conference at the church that we were attending in Minnesota. And, God has a way of doing this, of getting us right where he can really touch those tender parts of our soul. That night was all about shame and how to break free, how to not live in shame, and how the enemy wants us buried and isolated. And that's what shame does, right? Shame covers everything. You keep it put away, you keep it in that deep, dark hole. And that's where the enemy of our soul wants us to stay. Because when we connect, we start realizing, I'm not alone. My story is not unique. My story could help somebody else.
Right.
And so that night, maybe the second time that I have heard that little still small whisper of the Holy Spirit, first was, you made the right choice the first time. And then this time was, how can you be ashamed of a person, of a whole human being? Because that's who Abby was. And I had been seeing it as actions, my actions. And Abby was a beautiful, accomplished talented young woman who was a whole brand new person that I was going to meet. And how can I be ashamed of her? I can't. So that means I'm going to have to figure out how to talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure out how to talk about this. So we met, we talked on the phone. I went to Mississippi to meet her. She came to Minnesota to stay with us and meet us. She is so adventurous. She's so willing to be open to new opportunities, and she's just a delight. She is an absolute delight. And then I have this habit of every year finding a word to focus on for the year that kind of guides my study, it guides my prayers, it guides my thoughts and my ideas and kind of what I read, things like that for the year. Well, in the process in 2019 of meeting Abby, I thought, I've got to figure out how to tell my story. So that brings us all the way back to tell me your story and I'll tell you mine. Because in 2020, my word was story, because I had to learn how to tell the story. And I still feel like I don't tell it well because I do this. And the perfectionist in me wants to have it all like cut and dried and step 1, step 2, step 3, but that's not the way God made me. So in the process of learning to tell my story, I get to my bigger why. Why do I tell this story? Because God was with me every step of the way. He redeemed all of those bad choices that I made. He redeemed the hurt and trauma. He redeemed a child that I placed for adoption and brought her back into my life in such a gorgeous way, in ways that I could have never engineered. So that's why I tell my story. The Saturday before Mother's Day is Birth Mom's Day, and I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I didn't know that until, I don't actually, I think it's been since I met Abby that I learned that.
Yeah.
There is a website that I have found that I have absolutely fallen in love with because of the work they do for birth moms. I have met one other woman in 32 years who has talked about being a birth mom, and she was not a believer and didn't like to talk about it, and only talked about it because I went first. Therefore, I've got to go first.
Gotta go first.
And so if it's easier for me to go first and tell my story so that other people can see you're not alone. Yes, it's scary, but it's not the end of the world. And you've got somebody who can walk through it with you, then that's what matters. That makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
That's what redeems all of it.
Yeah.
Is the presence of God with me through all of it.
Now, was there during that time, not that time, any time through this whole redemption process?
Yeah.
Was there a scripture that stood out to you? Was there anything that, or is it just one thing at a time? I get the impression that you really had to walk through a lot of things to get to that full restoration part.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had to deal with shame, which was the primary thing. You probably had to deal with guilt. You had to probably deal with a lot of things. So you walked through all of that with God?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I like I said, I never lost faith in God's hand in my life.
Okay.
I don't think it's possible for us to derail God's plan for us. So I never doubted that God was with me. But it's interesting. It's all going to tie together with a big bow, girls, because Rahab was my person. Rahab, I got those books that you guys have been talking about. Read Rahab's story over and over and over again. The redemption that she goes through from being, she was a prostitute in Jericho. I wasn't a prostitute, but I had that same kind of sexual trauma that helped me relate to where Rahab came from.
Yeah.
And then to see her story arc, Rahab and Salmon got married, and then their son is Boaz, who married Ruth, and then Boaz and Ruth are the great-grands of David, of King David, and then however many greats of Jesus Christ. That is a story. That is a redemption story arc.
Yeah.
I call it Rahab's red thread. That's the red thread that I can see woven through my life in nice straight lines and also in a whole lot of messy lines where he wrapped it all up in his love, his redemption, and brought me to where I am now.
That's awesome. And I love how you said that one experience did not derail God's plan for your life. No. I so love that.
Yep.
Because we will walk through so many times and say, oh, did I mess this up? God, I'm so sorry. And you think you've lost your entire life.
Right.
And you haven't.
Nope.
He makes a way. I mean, there's scripture about that saying those who diligently love and seek him, he will make everything work together for good.
Yes.
We can't figure it out.
Yeah.
I love your story for that. And I loved how you said it. That one thing did not derail his plan for you, but it turned into this beautiful redemption.
Yeah. I worship a God who is so much bigger than I am. And my plans and my mess ups are not going to mess him up. He's got so much more power than that. Yeah. And so I get in his way because I don't make good choices sometimes, and because I, go on my little rabbit trails off the path, and his plan is still his glory. Yeah. And as long as I can bring myself back to glorifying him, that's where I have to be.
These questions, I don't know if you're listening and maybe you're going through something like this, or you're listening, and maybe this is what you needed to give yourself permission to heal, or give yourself permission to love again. Or maybe you haven't wanted to have children because you're like, I don't deserve that. I already gave up the one opportunity. What would you say? Firstly, did you find yourself having to give yourself permission to enjoy your daughter once you met her?
No.
Or to be a part or say comment?
It's tricky to navigate being a mom of girls and being a mom of an adopted daughter who I didn't raise. Yeah. And I still want to have a relationship with her. Yeah. But I know that is never going to look like the relationship that I have with the girls that I raised.
Right.
So that was tricky. Hold on, let me think through this. I did have to give myself permission to grieve because I thought that I was not going to have that. I think I didn't think I was worthy of it, that it was right for me because I chose adoption, because I chose...
Right, like in my brain, I feel like you were like, okay, I gave all that up once I gave her up.
Yes, because I went home from the hospital with a body that had had a baby.
Right.
And didn't have a baby. Yeah. So I had to shut it down, which is why I think I still do this every time I tell a story, because it's a little bit of that grief still leaking out from decisions that I chose but didn't give myself permission to feel.
Yeah.
So that took a long time. And probably is still going. John and I attended via YouTube, attended a funeral for a pastor's wife back in our hometown outside of Nashville. And in that church, she had really single-handedly changed the culture of that church because she prayed for adoption for a decade before she and her husband adopted. Their own biological kids were grown and they decided to adopt. And she, pastor's wife, big mega church, and that church became known for their help in facilitating adoptions for adoptive families. And as we're watching this funeral, seeing her gorgeous legacy of maybe thousands of families whose lives had been changed, hundreds for sure, whose lives had been changed by adoption. And all I could do was cry. And I couldn't stop crying. And we got to the end of it, and I stood up and walked away and couldn't stop crying. Went into the bathroom, got a tissue, mopped up my face, couldn't stop crying. He came back out, sat down next to John and said, I love this picture of adoption, but think about all of those moms. And that's something that I never hear talked about. All of those families, it's beautiful. Adoption is beautiful. And I can say that without reservation. Adoption is beautiful. But think about all of those moms who went home from the hospital just like I did, with a body that had had a baby. No baby.
Yeah.
So I still grieve that. I still really hurt for young Sarah, for all those moms. I'm so excited to see what Brave Love is the website that I was talking about, what Brave Love does in not just helping birth moms, but in facilitating connection between birth moms and the families where their children have been placed. That just wasn't a thing in 1993.
Yeah.
It just was not a thing. If your child was adopted, they were gone, and you did not have any right to try and track them down, or any way to try and track them down.
Yeah.
Really, no social media, no websites, internet, nothing like that. So you didn't have tools unless you hired someone, or unless you went to your adoption agency and had the adoption agency reach out. That family had to approve any contact, and the birth parent had to approve any contact. So it was, open adoptions just weren't a thing.
Yeah.
So it delights me to see co-parenting happening now. It gives me great hope for what adoption will look like going forward, and availability of resources for birth moms, to talk about something that is really difficult to talk about. And
what would you say to younger Sarah?
Oh, I have
just
thought
found out
this
you're pregnant.
occasionally.
6 months pregnant, looking in the mirror. What would you say to Sarah?
I think I would say it's going to be okay. This is not the end of your story. This isn't the end of the world. It feels like the end of the world, but you're not alone. You're not alone. Don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to find somebody. Don't try and do it by yourself, because there's more coming that is so much better than the pain of this moment.
What about Sarah that just got home without a baby? What would you say to her?
Weep, cry, rage, be mad, be sad, feel it. Don't bottle it up. I do not come from a family of emotive people. So crying was, we didn't cry. We just didn't emote. No emotions. And I don't know why. I don't know why that's the case, other than, Appalachian culture, which is where my family are from. It's just, you just buckle down and do it. You just live, because there's no promise that tomorrow's going to be any easier than today. So I did not have I didn't give myself permission to feel anything. It was just, okay, that's over with. Let's move on. Something ahead. So, young Sarah had a lot to deal with at a very young age,
And for birth moms that are listening to this, that some way, somehow have found their way to this video, what piece of advice would you have for them?
Let me think. Find your community. Find your people. Don't do it alone. It's so much easier to do it with someone by your side who is in your corner, who is undoubtedly in your corner. I think I had people in my corner. I just didn't let them help. Let people help.
Did this affect your relationship with God at all? Now looking back at it, I know you, I, for example, kept my faith. I never not once doubted God, even in all the terrible things that were happening. I feel like I clung to him harder, because that was all I had. That's the one person in my life that had not ever let me down, had never disappointed me. But the closer that I grew to him, the harder it was for me to be vulnerable with him. And I say it all the time. It's crazy to say, because it's God. He knows all, he sees all, he's been with you in all those moments. But I realized how it was affecting my spiritual growth. Did you notice that?
What I had to do, I never doubted God. I never questioned my relationship with him. What I had to do was give up pride. I had to recognize that a whole lot of what I was dealing with was Sarah wants to do it by herself. And God was like, we're going to keep poking that bruise. We're going to keep poking that bruise. We're going to keep coming back around to that thing that you thought you could do by yourself, but you need me. Yes, my plan is still here, but you need me to get there. You're not going to do it on your own.
Yeah, I find that in my personal journey, I was tough. I was good. I got me through a lot of things. Shutting things down, putting it way low, it got me through a lot of things.
Yeah.
I managed to get a career out of it. I managed to get married to an amazing man. I managed to do a lot. I was really proud of myself.
Yeah.
And then it got to a moment where there were still some things that I don't have any control over. There are still, with my son especially, there are some fears that like, God, how am I going to get through this? How am I going? And it was a moment that was the moment when survival turned into surrender. And I didn't realize that I had so many things that I still had. Like, you can have this part of my life because you do really well with that. And I tell Karen all the time, you can have the impossible stuff, healing, bringing people back to life. That's all you. That's all you. You got that. But this stuff, like my heart and me being vulnerable and me opening up and letting people in and sharing my story. And, that stuff, we don't touch that. And God was like, yeah,
I do.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I'm going to touch all of it.
Right.
All at once. And that moment for me was like a real aha moment because my relationship with God totally changed.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it could get any better.
Right.
Which is, again, crazy stupid for me to say, but like, I didn't think it could get any better until the moment that I realized there is nothing about me that is going to disappoint that man.
Nope.
Yeah. That's very true.
It was something that, I was 15 years old whenever I told my parents that I had been sexually abused.
Yeah.
It happened when I was 3 to 8 years old.
Wow.
My parents had no idea.
Yeah.
The day my dad found out, I don't think I'd ever seen that man cry before. And so, I was, I'm not gonna, that I messed up. How?
Right.
I don't know why that felt like it in my brain, but it did. So up until that point, it was something where like that didn't happen. I'm going to hide that. We're going to keep that going. So I just kept that going my entire life until it got to the point where even with, my husband, Leon, who
There you go.
even with Leon, it was like, I don't think I shared my story with him until we were already dating for 2 years, engaged, about to get married. And I was like, I may be mean and I may be terrible because of this. This happened, and he's like, okay. And this is someone who is a Christian, who is pretty healed, pretty strong, thought I had it all together, but there are still those things in your life that are just so ugly that are still, they're a huge part of your story. And I think this was something that we talked about in that dinner. Shame comes to hide all of those parts of your story. The only reason being is the moment that you start talking about it, it is part of your testimony, but it is your testimony and the blood of Christ.
Right.
That is going to help everyone. Like, it is not, Christ can do it all on his own, and he has, trust me. But the devil likes for you to forget that part of your testimony, because that's what people relate to while we're here and we're talking to each other. And I can't tell you how many times opening up about something like that, or even my miscarriage, just opened up the space for God to like do so much and talk to so many people and create community and build. So I am so thankful to you that you decided to share your story. Guys, Sarah was so nervous. She was like, what do you need from me? What do you want? And she wanted to like almost have everything planned out.
I am a planner.
That is
100%.
such a Joby thing. And
100%.
I on purpose was like, I don't need anything. We're going to see what happens because we're unfiltered. No, I hate to plan stuff like that because we can have a topic. We can have an idea that we're going to discuss. But as we're talking about things, different things start to stand out. Like we're talking about a Mother's Day that not everyone wants to talk about, but we've also talked about shame. We've talked about surrender. We've talked about something that you may have not noticed, that you're living in survival mode, and you have been for a really long time. It took me 32 years to realize that I was Jovi, serving God, loving him, but still protecting myself from a God who just wants to love me. That's crazy.
Yep.
Loving a God that just wants to love me, but I was even still protecting myself from God. That's a crazy concept, but that's what I was doing.
Right.
I was protecting myself from him. So we've talked about that. What other themes have you noticed that?
I think a lot of times what I think is really cool is what you just said. We were protecting ourselves from God. And that's such an interesting phrase. I've never heard it put that way until you just said it right then and there. And there is no reason to protect yourself from God. He truly loves you 100%. And he would be the one over anyone else to know everything. The emotional side, the hurtful side, the prideful side, any side you want to show him. Because he's going to take that and say, okay, I get it. Let's walk to the next spot. But I love how you said that you protected yourself from God. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the person we're not supposed to. But we innately,
That's what I was doing, because we don't realize it.
We don't realize it. And that key phrase right there, we don't realize that that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
That was a very key phrase. I love that. But yeah, shame, to understand and know that God wants to know all of your emotions.
Yeah.
He is an emotional God. He wants you fully restored in everything that you walk through. He wants you to experience peace, his peace through everything. So we've talked a lot about that too. So there's a lot in there. Yeah. I love your story too. Thank you so much. I mean, I was just sitting here thinking, wow.
John's in the corner of the room raising his hand.
Something that the goal of this is to just quickly talk about how the older kids bridged her into the family.
Yeah.
And how now you have a grandson that you carry.
Yeah.
Because the mother carrying a daughter is carrying the eggs.
I'm not going to look at you. I'm just talking about that.
So the bridge, how the kids bridge.
Let me turn this off, please. Otherwise, it's gonna. Can I just hand it to you? It'll probably go off again. So one of the beautiful things about the redemption of this story is that John and I have a blended family of 7 kids, and Abby is number 3. And when they met, of course, all the kids knew about Abby, but they just, I think it helped that we were a blended family. We just scooped her up, and she's number 7. We just, Ray, the kids have just made her one of us. John's middle, Katie and Abby, have become best friends, had babies just months apart. And really to round out the story, Abby has a son who's now 3 months old, 4 months old, and to get to see a part of her story that I never expected to see. I never held in my hands that maybe I'll get to meet Abby someday. I never held in my hands that maybe I would get to meet a grandson someday. But I got to meet her for her wedding. I got to be there. Well, I haven't met grandson yet, but I'm excited to meet Patton. So these are gifts I never expected, because God can give some gifts that will absolutely knock our socks off. We just have to be present and let him, right? We just have to open up to that and let him go. Ephesians 3:20, able to do exceedingly abundantly more than you could ever ask or imagine. Our God is able to do those things that we could never in a million years try and picture as the end of the story or the end of a part of the story, and bring you back to what comes next. It's just such a special, unexpected blessing. And being the perfectionist, sorry, you thought you were going to talk. Being the perfectionist and the planner that I am, right? I want to make this all happen. I want to make this look like step 1, step 2. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to turn left and I'm going to make it look like step 3, step 4. And I want to do it this way because I want to know what's coming. I want to know what's coming because I want to know I can control it. I can't control it, nor do I want to. Because when I control it, I make a mess. I make a mess of my life. When I've tried to control my life and make my own choices without putting God first, I make a mess. And he is faithful to say so gently, ever so gently, Sarah, you thought it was going to look like this, but let me show you what I have in store for you. So.
And you're in great company, and so are you.
Yes.
Because let me tell you what, we have a book about, depending on the translation, yay thick, that will show you how God time and time and time again has redeemed the worst of stories over and over again.
Yeah.
And the idea behind this episode was to let you know that not only are you not alone, not only has someone experienced, whether it's trauma or infertility, adoption, whatever your story may be, you have a community of women that are going through the same thing with you, but you also are among a community of people that have been redeemed by a God who is not done redeeming. He is not scared of your story, neither is he surprised by it.
Right.
He is very much willing to embrace you and meet you where you are.
Right.
So hopefully you've joined us and have got that message from this story. Karen, anything that you want to?
No, I think this was really great. I think this is just a cool bridge to just let ladies know that there is a way.
Yes. And I'm
God
so happy
is
that
the
you
way.
referenced the books
Yeah.
that we've been talking about. If you don't follow us already, follow us on all of our social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. You can also find us online at www.faithunfilteredlife.com, where you want to sign up for our newsletter because we have so much coming up in the next year. We're going to have more guest episodes, and we're going to have more interactive devotionals where you kind of get to dive deeper than we go into the show. Because we want to make this more conversational. We want you guys to relate and understand. We don't want to get too teachy preachy, but the devotional is where you can do that with us.
Yep.
So we're excited to share with you, and hopefully you will meet us there. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
Bye.